once again, good morning everyone. So for today's class, we will be discussing about biopharmaceutic considerations in drug product design. Now, you have to remember class, okay? Ano nga ba ang purpose ng biopharmaceutics? If you can remember class, the main purpose of biopharmaceutics is to make sure that a drug product enters the general circulation. That the drug product does what it intends to do by going to the bloodstream and creating effect. Okay? So basically, class, ang dami kasing factors na kailangan natin i-consider when designing a drug product. So you want to look at its physicochemical properties. Okay? And then at the same time, class, you want to make sure that its physicochemical properties are compatible to each other and make sure that the drug itself will be able to go into the bloodstream, where we say that once a drug enters the bloodstream, okay, the amount of drug entering the bloodstream is equal to the amount of drug that is present in our receptors or in their target sites. Okay, so therefore, class, what are some of the things that we have to consider when designing a drug product? So, ano yung mga biopharmaceutic considerations that we have to take note of? Okay, so for today's class, we will be discussing the following considerations that we need to know prior to designing a drug product. So we have the pharmacodynamic considerations, okay, drug considerations, formulation considerations, patient considerations, of course, very important. Okay? Kasi mahirap gumawa, class, ng drug product na hindi considered ang patient. A good example, class, is what if your patient is pediatric? Okay? Kung baby or kung bata, class, ang iyong patient, sa tingin nyo, ano ang dosage form na madalas na ginagamit natin for them? Yes, Miss Pihoto.
Mga syrup po, sir.
Okay, very good. Bakit sa tingin mo?
Hello po, sir. Good morning po. Kasi po yung mga bata po, ayaw po nila ng mga mapapait na mga gamot. So, yung mga syrup po kasi matatamis po. So, para po mga candy po yung lasa po nila. Kaya po maiinom po nila yun, sir.
Alright, very good. So, exactly, class, di ba? Alam naman natin yung mga bata, ayaw nila na mapapait, and they usually have a hard time swallowing tablets or capsules, right? Okay, so that's the reason why, class, there are syrups. May syrups tayo na available. So those are some considerations, class, we have to take note of. Or halimbawa, class, if a patient has difficulty in swallowing, ano yung mga options na pwede natin gamitin? Okay, kasi you have to consider din, class, ano ba ang target patients ko for my drug preparations? Kung bata yan, yun nga, madalas syrups ang gagamitin natin. Kung pediatric, most likely I'll be using suppositories. Hindi naman sila makakapagreklamo pag nilagyan mo yung, binigyan mo sila ng suppository, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, class, would be the manufacturing considerations. Okay? So our objectives for today is simply to understand the various considerations under biopharmaceutics. So what is biopharmaceutics all about? So sabi nga natin, class, di ba, biopharmaceutics, dito natin pinag-aralan yung mga various physicochemical properties of our drugs, okay, and how we will be able to deliver these drug products to the body, okay, under normal or pathological conditions. So biopharmaceutics basically links the physical and chemical properties of drug and drug product to their performance in vivo. Okay? Remember, class, when we say in vivo, it means inside the body. Hindi lang under laboratory conditions. Okay? Kasi pag laboratory conditions lang yun, that's in vitro. Okay? Ibig sabihin, highly controlled yung environment. Pag in vivo, class, this is a situation wherein we're using actual body. Okay? Yung actual performance ng gamot, yun, tama, si Mr. Sean? Syrup po kasi hirap sila lumunok ng tablets. Very good, Sean? Alright? So, in vivo, class, actual performance ng gamot sa loob ng katawan natin. Okay? And that's the purpose of biopharmaceutics. And the aim of biopharmaceutics, class, is to adjust the delivery of drug from drug products in such a manner as to provide optimal therapeutic activity and safety for the patient. Kaya nga, class, hindi lahat ng gamot binibigay intravenously. Okay? Kasi sabihin, to be honest, napakaganda ng IV drug because it provides us with fast drug action. At the same time, it provides us with precise dosing. Okay? However, class, one of the risks associated with using IV route is that it makes hindi maiwasan minsan na magkamali sa dosing. At pag nagkamali ka, class, sa IV drug, okay, if you make a mistake in giving an IV drug, walang bawian. Okay? Sabi ko sa inyo, hindi siya katulad ng tablet na kapag nagkamali ka ng dose, pwede mo pasukahin yung patient mo. Okay? In the case of IV kasi, once na inject na yan sa bloodstream, there's no turning back, right? So that's the reason why, class, we have multiple different types of dosage form. Halimbawa na lang, another thing that we have to consider. Okay? Let's look at insulin, for example. Ano ba, class, ang property ng insulin? Okay, let's apply biopharmaceutics here in designing a dosage form for insulin. Okay, so ano ba, class? Saan ba gawa ang insulin, class? It's mostly made up of what? Yes, Miss Pejoto.
Ano po, sir? Protein po.
Very good. Very good. So we know that insulin is a hormone. So alam natin na mostly it's made up of protein. Now, I know that it's a pure protein. So ano yung unang dosage form kaya napapasok sa isip ko na hindi siya pwedeng gawin? Okay? Yes, Mr. Nesio.
Pag in-intake po ng orally po, pag per oral kasi mag-degrade po siya ng enzymes sa GIT natin.
Okay, precisely, right? So I think we've explained this we explained this last meeting, right? Pero yun na nga, class, tama yun. Hindi siya pwede ibigay per oral. Kasi nga, first and foremost, it's a protein, and in our GI tract, okay, based on our understanding of the human body, class, it contains various enzymes, enzymatic enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, like proteases, which can easily destroy proteins. Meaning, if I give insulin per orally, pagdating pa lang sa tiyan ko niyan, okay, pagdating pa lang sa tiyan ko, sira na agad yung insulin. Can I do enteric coating? No. Kasi class, pagdating naman sa small intestines, may mga proteolytic enzymes pa rin doon. So it makes no sense to give this drug per orally. So automatic, class, alam ko na agad, hindi ko pwedeng ibigay si insulin PO because of its protein nature. Right? So that's an understanding, class, of the chemical properties of this drug. Now, ano na lang yung options ko? Therefore, so I have an understanding of the physical and chemical properties of my drug. The next ko dyan would be, how am I going to design in appropriate dosage form? So ano klase mga pwede kong dosage form na gamitin for insulin? Yes, Mr. Nesio.
IM po, sir.
Okay. Pwedeng IM siguro. Sige, try natin consider, ha. Ano yung mga consider natin? IM. Ano pa? Ano pa mga naisip niyo pwedeng dosage form? Well, alam na natin sub-Q, right? Huwag niyo nang banggitin yun. Ano pa sa tingin niyo pwede? Tingnan natin kung pwede yung mga yun. Sa tingin niyo, ano pa kaya pwedeng dosage form na pwede kay insulin? Okay, anyone? Sige, Mr. Reyes?
Transdermal patch, sir.
Sorry?
Transdermal patch po.
Transdermal patch. Okay. Why not, di ba? Malay natin, baka meron naman. Actually, meron nga nito. Okay, what else? Okay, sige. Diyan na tayo. Ako magdadagdag ako, ha. Isang inhalation, probably. Okay. Now, class, of course, these are the things that we list down. The next one kasi gagawin kasi natin is, tingnan natin kung applicable ba talaga siya for each route. Okay, pwede bang i-IM ang insulin? Right? If I put it in an oily vehicle, the problem kasi, class, if I give the drug intramuscularly, okay? Although we say that IM creates depot, right? It creates depot. However, class, even if it creates a depot, absorption is fast. Okay? Masyado mabilis yung absorption ng insulin following an IM route. Okay? Because it's a proteinaceous substance. Okay? Mabilis siya ma-absorb from the muscles to your bloodstream. Ang thing kasi, class, with insulin, okay, if we truly understand how insulin works, the amount of insulin in your body, class, okay, normally fluctuates throughout the day. Pero the reality of things, class, is you always have a basal insulin level. What do I mean when I say basal insulin level? Ibig sabihin, class, all throughout the day, meron kang minimum insulin level na kailangan i-maintain. Are we clear? Okay, may minimum insulin level sa loob ng katawan ko. So therefore, class, kailangan lagi akong may insulin sa katawan kasi yun yung normal eh. The problem is, if I give my insulin intramuscularly, mabilis siya ma-absorb sa katawan, so baka biglang mag-spike up ang insulin ko when it's not really needed to spike up. Okay? Now, sabihin natin, okay, binigay ko siya intramuscularly, so nag-spike up yung aking, ang insulin levels ko. The problem is naman, kung masyadong mabilis pumasok ang insulin sa katawan ko, mabilis din siyang mawawala. Diba, ganoon naman talaga lahat ng bagay. Yung mga bagay na mabilis natin nakukuha, minsan mabilis din nawawala. Kaya iba pa rin pag pinaghihirapan minsan yung mga bagay-bagay na gusto natin, right? Okay, parang pag-ibig lang yan. Okay, minsan iba pa rin yung nag-effort, kumbaga. Alright? Anyway, that's out of topic na. Sorry about that. Okay, so probably pwede ang IM pero hindi siya ganun ka, in a sense, applicable for insulin. Subcutaneous, we all know this, right? This is definitely the route of choice for insulin. Okay? Kasi class, in subcutaneous, you put your insulin in the fatty tissues of the skin. Kaya dahan-dahan lang yung absorption ng insulin papasok sa katawan natin. Unlike that of IM, medyo mapapabilis siya. Kasi between IM class and subcutaneous, though both are poorly perfused tissues, pero mas poorly perfused is subcutaneous kumpara kay IM. Si muscles. Si muscles kasi, although it's poorly perfused, pero it has enough blood supply to the point na mapapabilis ng konti yung absorption ng insulin natin. So, we don't want that to happen. Transdermal patches class, pwede. Okay? Pero right now, ang alam ko pa lang okay, it's still in the works. Okay? It's still in the works. Hindi ko pa alam kung kailan siya lalabas sa market, pero there are ways wherein we can introduce insulin sa katawan natin via transdermal patch. Yung transdermal patch na yun, may maliliit siya na needles. Okay? That, slightly damages or abrades your skin para makapasok si insulin. Okay? So, may ganun naman talaga. That's true. Inhalation, Exubera. This was actually made na. Yun nga lang, class, ang problem with inhalational insulin, okay, ginagawa nilang vapor yung insulin eh. Okay, ang problem, class, pag ginawa mong inhalational insulin is, mahirap i-control ang dose. And that was one of the major problems associated with Exubera, kaya hindi siya nailabas sa market ng naayos. Okay? So C-class, that's already the application of your biopharmaceutic knowledge to designing a dosage form. Okay? By knowing what your drug's properties are, okay, nagagawa natin yung pinakamagandang dosage form na bagay para sa kanya based on its properties. Right? Kaya class, kung mag-research man kayo in drug product design, these are some of the things that you have to consider always. Okay, number one lagi is the physical-chemical properties of my drugs. Kaya during drug discovery, okay, during researches for drug discovery, in-identify mo yung physical-chemical properties. Then another research would do drug product design. Okay, applicable ba siya sa mga ganitong klaseng drug product design? Of course, kasi ang goal natin lagi is to make it into its tablet form. Kasi that's the most convenient. Pero kung hindi pwede, ano naman yung ibang dosage forms na applicable? Again, the type of dosage form that we decide on will mainly depend on the needs ng patient ko and some other manufacturing considerations and so on and so forth. So what are the biopharmaceutic considerations? So the biopharmaceutic consideration often determines the ultimate dose and dosage form of a drug product. Okay? So drug products class includes the active substance combined with special ingredients, your excipients, that makes up the entire dosage form. So each route of drug application presents special biopharmaceutical considerations in drug product design. So halimbawa, okay, an eye medication may require special biopharmaceutical considerations, including appropriate pH, okay, isotonicity, local irritation to the cornea, draining by tears, and concerns for systemic drug absorption. Now, halimbawa, class, ito, another biopharmaceutical consideration. So you have to consider, yun na nga, yung route. If you're going to give a drug topically, halimbawa sa eyes, ang dami natin kailangan i-consider dito. Una sa lahat, baka mamaya ilagay ko ang gamot ko sa mata ng patient ko, nabulag naman siya. Okay? So ano dapat kong i-consider? Number one would be, of course, pH. Okay? Is your product acidic or basic? Do I need to put a buffer? Okay, a buffer para ma-maintain yung pH ng aking eye drops. Next one is isotonicity. You guys know this. Right? Kasi class, kung hypertonic ang solution na yan, hindi match sa isotonicity ng ice. Tandaan nyo, iba yung concentration ng ang isotonic concentration ng ice as compared to body fluids. Okay? So, kung hypertonic yung solution mo, baka mamaya makaka-experience ka ng pain. Mamumula yung mata ng patient mo, which causes local irritation. Right? And then, of course, class, do you want your product to stay in the eyes? Or do you want your eyes to be washed lang for the meantime? Kasi class, kung ang product mo is just for washing the eye, pwede siyang in aqueous form. Okay? Kasi panghuhugas mo lang naman ng mata eh. Right? Or for dry eyes halimbawa. Pero say for example class, ginagamit mo ang gamot mo for eye infection. Okay? If it's an eye infection class, what kind of drug dosage form would you consider using for your eyes? Okay? Would you use, ito papilian nyo ha. Okay, would you use a solution, suspension, ointment, cream? A, B, C, D. Ito yung options natin. Pero in real life class, wala kayong options na ganito ha. You decide on your own. Pero say for example class, you have an eye for ang drug mo is for eye infection. What type of dosage form would you consider using? Okay? So sabihin natin, in-adjust mo na yung pH, adjusted na yung isotonicity. This time, you'll be deciding on, what dosage form you will be using. Okay, pili kayo. May iba nagsabi solution. Very okay. Miss Savina says solution. Right, ang daming nagsasabing solution. Okay, try nyo nga. Try natin sino ba. Who would like to explain to me why you would choose solution? Okay? Yes! Sino yung nag-raise ng hands? Wait. Stay ka lang dyan. Yes, Mr. Reyes.
I think, sir, the basic logic to this kasi kaya solution, madali po kasi siyang, kailangan po kasi natin i-consider yung eyes is madaling ma-irritate, lalong-lalo na po pag may mga foreign, may mga
Okay.
foreign na contact din. So, we want our medication na parang maialis lang po, or parang, temporarily, which is, yung solution nga po is aqueous po.
Okay, pwede na rin yun. Alright, thank you very much, Ms. Savines. Sige.
Addition to that lang po yung sa sinabi ni Mr. Reyes, yung ano din po sir, if yung sinabi niyo din po kanina na if ever na ang gusto lang gawin or ang kailangan lang gawin is i-wash si eyes or kailangan talaga mag-absorb ng gamot. Ganun po. Mas applicable din po yung solution. Tapos dun din sir sa choices parang imposible pong gamitin kapag sa eyes siya
Okay.
ilalagay.
Alright. Alright, I'll take that. Thank you very much. So, tama rin naman yung class eh. So, actually, if you notice class, most eye drops come in the form of solutions. Okay? However, class, alright, so sabi natin, pwede naman yung pang-wash lang naman, sir eh. Okay? Yun nga eh. Sabi nga natin, class, again, it depends on the needs of the patient. So, solution class is applicable, especially through kung gusto mo lang naman talagang ma-wash ng antimicrobial solution yung mata ng patient. Okay? Para mawala yung local eye infection. Pero there are limitations class to using a solution. Number one, if it's aqueous, okay, mabilis siya ma-absorb from the eyes. It can go into the systemic circulation and be absorbed systemically. So which defeats the purpose sometimes, class of having a medication intended for local effects. Okay? Kasi ang local effects na goal ko dito would be for the eye lang. Okay? But then again, class, please don't get me wrong, solution pa rin talaga ang kadalasan na ginagamit for eye preparation because of number one, ease of administration. Number two, madaling i-adjust ang isotonicity nun kasi solution lang yun eh. Okay? And it's easy to maintain its pH by simply adding buffer solutions. However, class, another option that we can have here would be ointments. Okay? Just so you know, class, there are eye ointments. Eye ointments, class, are mostly limited to the mas limited ang use nila for bacterial infections class that are, let's just say na mas matapang, okay, or mas aggressive na bacterial infection sa eye. Bakit? Kasi class, ang ointment, especially class for bacterial preparation that makes your eyes tear up, okay, nagluluha ka. Kasi class, ano ang mangyayari kapag masyadong maluha ang mata? Okay? Pag masyadong nagluluha ang mata natin, class, kung solution yan, pinatak mo sa mata mo, the moment nagluha ka, mabilis mawawala yan sa eyes. That's a limitation of solution. Okay? But it's the most convenient dosage form for eye preparations. Okay? So just, marka natin yan, solution definitely. Okay? Now class, pag ganyan kasi ang case, kadalasan, ang ginagawa natin sa eye preparation natin, ginagawa natin siyang ointment. Although mas marami kang kailangan consider pag eye ointment ang gagawin mo. Okay? Kasi like say for example, nalabo ang paningin ng patient mo kasi ointment ang nilagay sa mata. Okay? So something that you have to inform our patient. But at least class, tears won't make the ointment disappear. Okay? Hindi siya nawawala agad because it stays longer in your eye. So hence class, it delivers the medication much longer as compared to solution. So again, the consideration class that you have to remember here in terms of designing a drug dosage form, okay, will again depend on what type of infection you're going to treat. Okay, depends on the patient you have and what are your goals for your medicine. Okay? So I hope, ito kasi class yung something na hindi ko may tuturo ng basta-basta lang. It's something class that you have to learn through experience. Okay? But I just want to give you guys an idea of how things are. Okay? Anong mga nako-consider ko whenever I design a product for a dosage form. So hindi siya class simply deciding on, ay, feeling ko maganda ito. Ay, feeling ko maganda ito. No, ang dami nating kailangan pag-isipan bago tayo makapagsabi na ito ang pinakamagandang dosage form para sa gamot ko. Kaya nga sabi sa inyo normally that's a separate research all in all. Okay? Kaya kaya minsan napapakamot ako ng ulo ko kapag sinabi nila, pag sinabi ng mga estudyante ko na maghahanap sila ng bagong drug product at gagawa sila ng bagong dosage form at they're going to make a dosage form out of it. Sabi ko, do you truly understand the difficulties that you have to come across when you're designing a a dosage form? Okay? So kaya normally class, if you're planning to make a dosage form, a dosage form for a drug product, kailangan maghanap ka ng drug product na established na. Kumbaga, alam mo na yung physico-chemical properties niya, alam mo na yung ganito, ganyan, may gumawa na ng research na yun para sa'yo, para makapag-focus ka on designing a dosage form for that drug. Okay? And these are some of the things that you have to consider. And this is just one example, class, Okay, this is just one example. Alright? So what are the scopes of biopharmaceutics? So encompasses all of the possible physiological factors which may affect drugs in various dosage forms. Like say, for example, kung per oral, kailangan ko i-consider yung gastric emptying ko, peristaltic movements, pH of my stomach, kaya do I take it before meals or after meals? Kasi before meals, normally acidic yung tiyan ko. After meals, medyo nagiging slightly basic siya. Okay? Pero again, that also depends on the meals that I'm taking. Encompasses all the possible effects of various dosage forms on biological regions, and encompasses all the possible effects observed following the administration of drugs in various dosage forms. Excuse me. Right? So, halimbawa na lang class. Okay? One of the major physiological factors for per oral drugs, as I've mentioned, would be gastric emptying and peristalsis. Anong alam nyo class sa peristalsis? Okay. Wait lang Yes, Mr. Nesho. What do you remember about peristalsis?
Pagkakalala ko sir, ito po yung movement ng smooth muscle po natin.
Very good. Okay. To be more precise class, ang peristaltic movements na nadi-discuss natin dito is more on the peristaltic movements of the intestines. Okay? Paano gumagalaw yung intestines natin. Now class, if you think about it, okay, ang sabi natin, major site of absorption for per oral drugs would be the small intestines, right? Now, kung gusto kong mas ma-absorb ang gamot ko, anong gusto kong mangyari sa peristaltic movements ko? Fast or slow? Sa tingin nyo lang. Okay? And how you try to imagine it, how you try to think about it. If you think about it, class. Yes, Mr. Kian?
Slow po, sir.
Slow. Bakit sa tingin mo?
Kasi po pag mas mabagal yung movement ng drug, mas mataas yung chance na mas ma-absorb siya within the body. Siyempre, mas mababa yung time na ma-excrete siya
Mm.
uh, until such time na ma-absorb po siya all in all.
Okay, very good. So that's correct, class. So thank you very much, Mr. Kian. So normally, class, when we're considering peristaltic movements, you want it to be slow if you want your drug to be absorbed more. Kasi, class, remember, pag mas matagal ang contact time ng gamot sa intestines natin, right, mas maraming pagkakataon na ma-absorb siya ng small intestines. Now, isipin mo na lang, class, kung mabilis yung paggalaw ng ating bituka. Okay? Kung mabilis yun, class, gagalaw lang yan. Labas na agad sa puwet natin. So you did not give your intestines enough time to absorb the medication. That's the reason why, class, normally when you're taking PO drugs, okay, when you're taking PO drugs, we try to avoid loperamide. Or kung hindi talaga maiwasan, kailangan pa rin ng patient ng loperamide, usually in-space ang dosing ng mga yan. Why? Because loperamide, class, okay, loperamide, just so you know, has a lot of drug interactions with any per oral medication. Okay? Kasi loperamide, class, tends to decrease peristalsis. Now, since it decreases peristalsis, okay, if you have another drug, let's say drug X, if it's combined with loperamide, class, anong nangyayari sa concentration ni drug X? Ano sa tingin niyo mangyayari sa blood concentration? Sorry, sa amount of drug, very good. Sa amount of drug X in your body, very good, Mr. Reyes, tataas ang concentration niya. Bakit? Because you combine it together with the loperamide, which slows down peristalsis. And what's the risk, class, pag mataas ang concentration? May risk tayo for? Very good, Ms. Pihoto, Ms. Cabalan. Okay, may risk tayo for toxicity. Okay? Kaya maraming drug-drug interactions lagi ng mga per oral medications with loperamide. Kasi nga, it slows down peristaltic movements. Right? So I hope, I do believe that's clear. Gastric emptying naman, class, wala naman tayo masyadong gamot that works on this one, but except for metoclopramide, fine. Okay, pero gastric emptying is simply the time it takes for the contents of the stomach to go to the small intestines. Okay? So basically, class, ang gastric emptying time lang, ang gastric emptying is simply the time it takes for the contents of your stomach to go down to the small intestines. It's as simple as that. Okay? So yung pagbaba niya sa small intestines. Kasi nga, class, if we think about it, absorption takes place mostly on the small intestines. Okay? Rarely do we get absorption. Or meron namang absorption sa stomach, pero not as significant as that of the small intestines. Okay? So, ayun. And that's just one example, class. Ang dami pang physiological factors na involved dito. Okay? So, those are some of the biopharmaceutic considerations that we have to take note of. Now, what about pharmacodynamic considerations? Okay? In terms of pharmacodynamic considerations, class, the question will always be, what are your therapeutic objectives? Are your therapeutic objectives simply symptomatic relief? Pang-relief lang ba? Treatment talaga? Okay? And so on and so forth. Is it used for prophylaxis? These are some of the things that you have to consider, class, when designing a drug product. Okay? Kasi, class, say for example, ano pang therapeutic objective mo? Is it for systemic or local effects? Ito, malaki ang role nito, class. Okay? Kasi kung ang role ko is systemic effect, okay, if my goal, my therapeutic objective, class, is for my drug to provide a systemic effect, ano ang route of administration ang most likely gagamitin ko? Anong route of administration? Sa tingin nyo lang, class. Okay, most likely, if my goal is systemic effects. Yes, Mr. Nesho?
IV po, sir.
Very good. Okay, of course, the simplest one, class, would be an IV route. Pwede naman per oral. Wala nang problema doon. Because pwede rin naman mag-create ng systemic effects ng per oral. Now, kasi if it's for local effects, most likely, ano yung mga route of administration na pipiliin ko? If my therapeutic objective is for local effects, very good, Miss Cabalyan, Miss Pejoto. Okay, Miss Bulanon, topical ang option ko dito. Okay, pwedeng otic, kung sa tenga, ophthalmic, sa mata, creams, lotions, ointments. Those are the stuff that I'll be considering. Okay? So, ayun. Those are some of the therapeutic objectives that we have. So, toxic effects, you also have to consider these things. Kasi, remember class, ang number one consideration for any drug is safety first. Okay? Kahit gaano pa ka-effective, kahit gaano pa kaganda ang gamot mo, kung masyadong mababa ang kanyang therapeutic window, ang kanyang therapeutic index. Okay? Kung masyado class mababa ang therapeutic index ng gamot mo, then it doesn't make sense to use it. Kasi again, safety will always be a number one concern for any drug product. Out of the millions of drug molecules because we have discovered now in the world, only a few thousands, okay, or probably 100,000 pa lang ang nagagamit. Bakit? Because safety has always been a primary concern. Right? And adverse drug reactions. Now, for drug considerations class, all of the following must be considered. Okay? Sa property ng gamot mo, physico-chemical properties, pKa, pH, particle size, polymorphism, hygroscopicity, partition coefficient, excipient interaction, pH stability, and solubility. So, all in all class, ano ang tawag natin sa mga ito? These are actually, in general, the physico-chemical. The physico-chemical properties of my drugs. Okay? And when designing a dosage form, these are the things we have to consider. Okay? Next one, for the drug product itself, what are the things that you have to consider? Kung drug product na yan, ibig sabihin, meron na akong dosage form. Once nabuo ko na class ang dosage form ko, halimbawa, after screening for all possible dosage forms, for understanding the needs of my patient, and so on and so forth, I came up with a solution that, gagawin kong tablet yung gamot ko. Nagawa ko na siyang tablet. Alright. After so many things that na kinonsider ko, physico-chemical properties ng drug, so on and so forth, I was able to arrive to a drug product which is a tablet. After arriving class to your drug product which is a tablet, now you have to do some drug product considerations. You need to check for its kinetics. Pag-aaralan mo specifically yung admin niya. What are the enzymes that metabolizes it? How long does it take before it's cleared from the body? How long will it take before it's fully absorbed from the body? Kailan lalabas ang kanyang therapeutic effects? These are the things na aralin ko sa pharmacokinetics. Kasi if you remember, as we've mentioned, in pharmacokinetics class, we're talking about the time course of the drug inside the body. Okay? Then, after knowing this, I'll do specific studies on bioavailability. On just my tablet pa lang to, check ko how many percent of that drug will be absorbed prior to per oral administration. Kasi as you all know, okay, a lot of things can happen, okay, when you're taking a drug per orally. Okay, pwede tayo ma-experience ng first pass effect, halimbawa, and so on and so forth. Next one, ano ang appropriate dose? Knowing the bioavailability of my drug, what dose would I use, okay, that would make sure na hindi tayo mag-exceed sa minimum toxic concentration. Enough to reach the minimum effective concentration, but not too much, nalalagpas na tayo ng toxic concentration. And then, of course, you have to consider dosing frequency. And when considering dosing frequency class, one of the main parameters that you need to consider here is clearance. How fast is my drug being eliminated from the body? Again, it's under the study of elimination. Okay? Kasi class, kung mabilis, ito, tanong natin if there is an increase in clearance, mabilis i-eliminate yung drug sa katawan mo, what do you do with your dosing frequency? Okay, Mr. Nesho?
Pag mabilis po yung clearance, kailangan pong marami or is either taasan or dalasan yung
Dalasan. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, so tama yung class. Kung mabilis ma-clear ang iyong medication, so that's usually derived, the dose class and dosing frequency is usually obtained after doing pharmacokinetic and BABE studies. Right? Doon tayo nakakapag-decide. Right? So, if you know class that a drug is easily cleared from the body, then your frequency class needs to be more often. Okay? Or, okay, kasi halimbawa, based on your computation, dapat every 2 hours nagtitake yung patient ng medication. So, anong next option ko? So, sabi ko, oh my gosh, every 2 hours kailangan daw i-take ko yung gamot kasi masyadong mabilis i-clear from the body. Masyadong maiksi yung kanyang half-life. Okay? So, if that's the case, class, then ang next option ko is reconsider your drug product design. Okay? Baka hindi siya pwede sa tablet lang. Baka kailangan siya ay in sustained drug release. Okay? Yung mga ganong klase, class, yung mga pinag-aaralan natin dito. Kaya nga, class, every time you look at a medication, appreciate, class, all the effort, all the research that went through it. Hindi sila nag-arrive sa, ay, pwede na ang 500 milligrams sa tablet para sa isang tao. No, it took a lot of years, probably months, okay, pwede rin months naman, of research and manpower for them to be able to arrive to an appropriate dose, to an appropriate dosing interval. Okay? Kaya nga, class, hindi nyo masisi ang mga manufacturing firms kung bakit pag nagbebenta sila ng bagong gamot, napakamahal talaga. Kasi, class, just imagine, ito mga didiscuss ko sa inyo. I'm discussing to you these things, pero pero once you start doing the actual lab works, okay, ang hirap niyang gawin. Okay? So, ayun, those are some things that we have to consider for the drug product itself. Okay? Bilhin mo, after designing, kailangan mo pang i-consider kung ano yung dose na maganda. Kaya hindi siya ganun kasimple. Kaya, class, huwag kayong maniniwala pag may nagsabi sa inyo, madali lang gumawa ng research. Okay? Halo-halo lang kayo ng mga dahon-dahon dyan. That's not real research. Okay? Real research, class, is very focused. Okay? Kasi ang lumang pag-iisip kasi ng ibang teachers noon is, pag mas marami kang ginagawa sa research mo, mas maganda. No. That's so not true. Okay? That would lead to a poorly designed research. Okay? A good research, class, is a very focused topic research. Kasi isang topic lang pinag-uusapan dyan. Then you do everything you can to validate, okay, the findings of that focused topic na ginagawa mo, your focused research. Alright? So, yon. Okay? So, are we good so far? Hindi naman kasi tinatakot ko kayo, pero these are just things that you really do have to know. Well, not necessarily memorize. Okay? I hate memorization. Okay? So, I don't expect my students to love memorization as well. Okay? Kung ako ayoko nun, kayo, I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting myself to you guys. Okay? Pero class, I prefer that you understand the topic than memorizing it. Kasi when you understand it, hanggang pagtandaan ninyo, kahit paano, may maalala at maalala kayo. Ako nga, minemorize ko nga dati mga pangalan ng kung sino-sino mga pharmacists, hindi ko na maalala mga pangalan nila ngayon. Okay? Anyway, so yun. So those are drug product considerations. The next one, class, patient consideration. Of course, when designing a drug product, sino bang end user nito? Diba mga pasyente lang din naman? Okay? Sila rin ang bibili ng produktong ito. So hence, class, you have to consider the needs of your patients. So hence, class, compliance is a big issue. Kasi kung halimbawa, class, kung ang dosing frequency ng gamot mo is every hour, sa tingin mo, magiging compliant yung patient mo? Most likely, hindi. Paano kung oldies? Geriatric yung patient. Okay? Geriatric yung patient ko. Do you think they would like to have a medication taken 3 times a day? Most likely, makakalimutan nila yun eh. Kaya, class, nagde-design tayo ng mga modified release dosage forms. Acceptability of drug product. Papayag ba kayo ng ang paracetamol nyo lahat ay suppository? Okay? So, personally, ako, ayoko nun. I wouldn't want a suppository drug. Okay? So, you have to consider, again, the acceptability of the drug product for general market use. Okay? Or, ano ba? Yung taste ng gamot, papayag ba kayo ng suspension nyo ay napakapait na iinumin ng inyong mga babies, ng inyong mga pamangkin, say for example? So most likely hindi rin naman, di ba? So ang ginagawa natin is maghanap tayo ng paraan para ma-improve ang palatability ng ating gamot. Kaya inaral natin sa dosage form, di ba? What type of flavors, class, would you choose if your drug taste bitter? Ano yung masking flavor mo? Anyone? Or what if class yung flavor ng inyong medication is sour? Ano yung masking flavor mo? I think tinuturo to sa dosage form if I'm not mistaken. O baka nakalimutan na lang. Okay? Try nga natin. Ano class ang masking flavor? Anong usual na flavoring ang ibibigay mo kung alam mo ang gamot mo ay maasim? Ano yung masking flavor natin? Okay. Sige, Bisavines.
Mga citrus po ba, sir?
Tama yun. Citrus flavors ang bibigay natin dyan. So, normally, class, gagamit ka ng orange. Pwede rin namang, ano ba mga available natin? May mga naglalagay nga, dalandan flavor eh. To mask the sour taste of your medication. What about for bitter? Okay, class, normally for bitter tasting medication, pwedeng vanilla. Not, pwede, I guess pwede na rin. Normally kasi ang vanilla ginagamit for salty eh. Okay, for salty tasting drugs. Okay, normally yan. Chocolate ang ginagamit natin for bitter tasting drugs. Kaya tingnan nyo, class, ano madalas na flavor ng mga antibiotics natin? Ano na-notice nyo? Karamihan dyan, class, is chocolate flavor. Kasi karamihan ng antibiotics mapapait. So, we try to cover that bitter tasting taste with chocolate. Okay, may mga yan. So, those are some things, class, that you have to consider din. Yan. Strawberry, class, normally ginagamit siya for citrusy or sweet tasting medications. Okay? Pero class, one of the ultimate form of masking your taste, the taste of your drug product, is using effervescence. Ano yung effervescence? Yung bumubula-bula. Okay? That's a way of improving the palatability of your drug product. Okay? And these are things, class, that you learn din naman throughout the Well, anyway, natutunan ko to that sa dosage form namin eh. Okay, pero balay ko ba, baka iba na nga yung tuturo sa dosage form. Sabi na hindi na gano'n ka-significant ang mga ito because you can always look for it sa internet. Okay, so pwede rin naman. Okay. Anyway, and last considerations, class, that you have to take note of would be manufacturing considerations. Okay? So, cost of manufacturing, aanhin ko ang isang drug product na napakaganda pero napakamahal din na hindi ko na mabebenta sa pasyente ko. Okay? Or very niche yung group of people na mabebentahan ko. Kaya tingnan nyo, class, wala halos gumagawa ng research or ng drug product specific for, say, for example, psoriasis. Okay? Or for rare diseases. Diba? Halos walang nag-research about that, right? Because nga, walang income sa ganong klaseng sakit because it's rare. However, class, there are some NGOs or some research firms that do research on them, okay, pero funded sila by the government. Kasi hindi sila funded by drug companies because these drug companies believe na hindi sila kikita sa ganong klaseng sakit. Saan sila madalas mag-invest? Cancer. Have you noticed that? Kasi ang daming may cancer. Diabetes, hypertension. Those are the types of disease or drug products na nag-i-invest talaga ang mga drug companies because doon sila kikita. And it makes sense naman, right? Next one, availability of raw materials, stability, okay, of the drug product. Aanhin mo ang gamot kung bukas after manufacturing, bukas na bukas, panis na ang gamot nyo. And then quality control issues. Okay?